Hi, writers. This week in writing, we're also going to do another fiction writing choice board, except this time you're going to focus only on fiction writing. So you're going to choose something you're going to work on in your stories, and you can either start a new story and work on that focus, or you can revise and add that to the old stories you've already written. You should have about 6 or 7 stories written in your student portfolio by now. So there's a lot of stories for you to work on and add to and make better. Because remember, an author doesn't just finish and publish a story in one day. Authors often take years to write a story. They reread and rewrite and reread and add details and edit. They do a lot of work to a story before it becomes a story that you can rent from the library or buy at the bookstore. So we're practicing doing that very important editing and revising work. So let me share the choice board with you to show you all the different things you can work on during writing workshop this week. Remember, you can do it on any of the stories you've already written, or you can start a brand new story and practice focusing on that element. Let me share the board with you. All right, friends, so this is your fiction story elements choice board. So this time we're not going to choose a different type of writing to do every time. We're going to focus on fiction writing, but we're going to make our writing better. So the directions say, choose a new writing focus task each day. You may either start a new story or revise an old story as you work on your chosen task. Remember, do not submit your stories. Save all of your stories in your portfolio to revise and edit daily. Save them as drafts so that you can work on them every day, whichever story you want. All right, here's your first focus. You could work on developing the inside of your character, who the character is on the inside. So you can use character trait, feeling, and action words to add sentences that describe who your characters are on the inside. So if you're starting a new story, make sure when you write about the character, you tell me all about who they are on the inside. Or if you're revising old stories, reread to make sure, did you include enough details about who your character is on the inside? Can I really tell if they're brave or adventurous or courageous or mean? Can I really tell who they are on the inside by what you wrote already? If not, add more, okay? And do this to many stories, not just one. Add this to all of the stories you've written so far, or add it to the new story that you're starting, if that's what you choose to do. Your next option or focus task is to develop your outside character, right? So there's the inside character and who the person is on the inside, but then there's also who the character is on the outside, what they look like, how tall they are, how short they are, what they're wearing. So for this, you're going to use describing words and adjectives to add sentences about what your characters look like on the outside, okay? So if you're revising your old stories, read them and see, did I add enough details about what my character looks like on the outside? Can my readers really picture this guy or this girl or this animal in their mind? And if you're starting a new story, make sure you're adding lots of describing words and sentences so that I can really know who your characters are and what they look like. Your third focus choice is setting. Use describing words, adjectives, sights, sounds, and textures to add sentences and details that help your reader really picture the setting in their mind. So reread your old stories. Did you really give me lots of details about the setting? Can I see how many trees are there and if there are birds or if it's hot or if it's cold? Can I really imagine myself there? Did you give me enough details? And if you're starting a new story, again, make sure you add all those details so that I can feel like I am there with the characters when I'm visualizing the story in my mind. Your next choice is to develop the problem, right? So add sentences and details to your stories that really describe your character's problem in detail. Don't just tell me what the problem is right away. Lead up to it. Make me wonder what the problem's gonna be before you tell me what the problem is, right? What caused the problem? Why did the problem happen? How long has the problem been going on? How does your character feel about the problem? Right? There's a lot of details you can add about the problem. Don't just say what the problem is. Add more details about the problem. Develop the problem. Stretch it out. Okay? Again, you can add this to your old stories that you've already written or start a new story where you really do a good job of developing the problem. Next up is stretch the solution. We talked a lot about this and about how we stretch out the solution by adding sentences that show all the steps and things that the character tried to do to solve their problem. They don't just solve their problems right away with the snap of a finger. They try a lot of things. They struggle. They have more problems, kind of. And then finally, they solve the problem. So tell me, bit by bit, step by step, what they do and how they solve the problem. Stretch it out. Check that you did this in your old stories. If you didn't do it, add this. If you did do it on all your stories, or you feel like just starting a new story, start a new story, but make sure you stretch out the solution, okay? Next up is build tension. We talked about tension a lot. You watched that Toy Story clip when the toys are all about to get burnt alive in the incinerator, but all of a sudden, a claw comes down and saves them. That's tension. It's when your reader is wondering and worried, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna be okay? Are the problems gonna be solved? Like, what's gonna happen? Oh my God, I have to know. I have to keep reading to find out. So add exciting events and sentences to your story to leave readers on the edge of their seat, wondering what's gonna happen next. Will the character's problem get solved or not? Make them wonder, make them think it's not gonna get solved, and then all of a sudden, it gets solved, okay? Then this next one is conventions, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute because I'm going to share something else with you that helps explain conventions. We're going to skip that one for a second. Let's go to dialogue. Dialogue is when a character is talking, and a good story has a lot of sentences where the characters are talking. So we're hearing what the characters are saying, and the characters are talking the way that they would talk. So in your stories, old stories or new stories, add sentences to tell what your characters are saying and how they are saying it. Use quotation marks, which are the lines in front and the lines at the end of the words that your character says, to let the reader know when the character is talking. Okay? When I say how they are saying it, I mean, did they shout it? Did they whisper the words? Did they scream the words? Did they sadly say the words? Like, how are they talking? Don't just tell me what they said, but also tell me how they said it. Okay, add those dialogue tags so that I know how to read that part. I can sound like the character when I read that part because you tell me exactly what they said and how they said it. Okay, all right, let's go back to conventions, our last choice. Conventions help your voice shine through your story because you'll add similes, comparisons, sound words, alliteration, and personification to your story. It says to watch the lesson video, which is this video that you're watching right now, for more explanation of this task. So if you choose conventions and you forget, what is Ms. Kamnar talking about? What am I supposed to do here? Come back to this video and watch it, okay? So let me show you about those conventions. All right, so here's a fancy, colorful chart that shows you a whole lot of different conventions, okay? Conventions are basically ways that you make your writing come to life, ways that you make it exciting, ways that you make it special so that it's your story with your voice. So one thing you can do is add figurative language. Figurative language is words that mean something different than their literal meaning. It's like using your poet's eyes to add details to your stories. It's like saying one thing but meaning the other. Like something like, oh, that was easy as cake, right? Easy as pie. That's something people say when something's really, really easy, right? They say it's easy as pie. That's an example of figurative language. Personification is when you make something that's not alive, like an ice cream cone or an animal, come alive like a human. You make them dance, you make them sing, you make them talk. That's personification. It's giving human qualities to a non-human item. Like if there was this ice cream, right? And the ice cream was saying, hey, you, eat me, right? Like the ice cream is begging to be eaten because it's saying, hey, you, eat me. But ice cream doesn't really talk. We're making it talk. We're personifying it and making it come alive. You could do that in your story to different objects and things in your story. We've talked a lot about similes this year. It's where you compare two things using like or as. Like, he was so scared he ran as fast as lightning all the way home, right? add similes and comparisons to your story to really help your readers picture how your characters are doing things and what things look like, okay? Then onomatopoeia is just another word for sound words. Make sure you're using sound words in your story like bow wow, woof, bark, yip, or buzz, or da-da-da-da-da-da. Whatever the sound you're describing, you can write it out as a word, and that would also make your story exciting to read. So a metaphor is the next thing, and a metaphor is very similar to a simile. It's almost the same thing, except you don't have to use the words like or as. You just kind of compare two things, like he is a pig. Now, if I was comparing someone to a pig, it might be someone who eats a lot, right? I could say he ate all the chips, and then he ate all the ice cream, and then he even ate all the fruits and vegetables. He was a pig. That's a metaphor. You're comparing one thing to another thing because there's something about those two things that is the same. But you don't have to always use like or as. You can and write a simile, or you don't have to and it becomes a metaphor. The next one is an idiom. And an idiom is like figurative language. It's a saying that has a different meaning than what it literally means. Like that homework was a piece of cake, that example I gave. Or if it's raining really, really hard outside, someone might say, it was raining cats and dogs, right? So an idiom is a saying that has a different meaning than what it actually says. The homework was a piece of cake. The homework wasn't actually a piece of cake, but that's just a saying that people say when something is really easy. Alliteration can be lots of fun. It's when the same letter or sound occurs at the beginning of words. So if you write a whole sentence and every sentence starts with the same letter, or every word starts with the same letter in that sentence, that's alliteration. Like she sells. See, it's even hard to read. She sells seashells. Alliteration is kind of like tongue twisters, but you can add that in your fiction stories to make your stories more fun and exciting to read. And the last one is a hyperbole. A hyperbole is an exaggeration beyond belief to make a point. So it's like you're saying, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Yeah, no one's gonna really eat a horse, but you're exaggerating. You're being extra about it because you're just that hungry. Or you could say, I already watched that movie a million times. You didn't really watch it a million times. You're just exaggerating to help people understand that you really watched that movie a lot of times. So many times that it feels like you watched it a million times. Okay? So, if you choose to add conventions to your story, this is a great thing to do to stories that you've already written. If you already have a finished story, go back and try to add some of these exciting conventions to your story to make it fun to read for you and for the reader. All right, friends? All right, sounds good. So I'm looking forward to all the ways that you edit and revise your stories this week. I'm sure some of you will also write new stories this week. Either way, I can't wait to read your creative edge of the seat fiction stories. Happy writing, friends. Bye.